My name is Robin Brown. I'm going to be moderating the session for the next hour, and I really appreciate everyone who's jumped on. And we welcome you to the session. Today we're going to kick it off with Samantha Lyon. She's a program analyst with the Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association. She's going to talk to us about Farmland Health Check-Up and a little bit about the LEADS program. And Margaret May is going to follow Sam. Margaret's going to talk to us about preparing for an intake, and that'll take about the first 20 to Sam will do 20 minutes, Margaret will do about 20 minutes, and the remaining 20 minutes will be for OMAFRA crop specialists who are going to be speaking to us on a variety of topics from industrial hemp, soil health, grain demo, tiger nut, trial, and bioproducts. So I'm going to turn it over to Sam, but before I do, I would like to remind you to go to the Soil and Crop virtual booth for your chance to fill out a survey and win this really awesome rain jacket or a hat. And please use that Q&A or chat to ask questions as we go through the presentation, and I'll make sure that our presenters answer your questions for you as we move along. All right, so take it over, Sam.
Okay, thank you very much, Robin. Let me just get started here and I will share my presentation with you. All right. So thank you very much for attending today. And as Robin mentioned, I will be discussing the Farmland Health Checkup and the LEADS program. Please pardon my hand for being in screen here. My microphone has been quiet recently, so I'm going to have this with me the whole time. So yes, the Farmland Health Checkup and the LEADS program are related to one another, and I'll cover mostly the Farmland Health Checkup today with an introduction to the LEADS cost share program. We'll have a few minutes for questions as well, which you can pop in anytime, and we do have some buffer at the end too if there's questions for me to answer at the end. So first of all, what is the Farmland Health Checkup itself? In partnership with Ontario's certified crop advisors and professional agrologists, the checkup provides farmers a unique opportunity to work with a CCA or a PAG at no cost to the farmer to complete an assessment of on-farm soil and pollinator health, and so develop a list of tailored best management practices targeted to their operation. So the checkup serves as a long-term planning tool for the operation, and in addition to being a long-term planning tool, it's also a requirement for applying to the Lake Erie Agriculture Demonstrating Sustainability Program, the LEADS program, which is also administered by Ontario Soil and Crop. So for some context, which you may or may not be familiar with, depending on whether you've investigated our booth so far, Soil and Crop administers the checkup under the Canadian Agricultural Partnership, which is a 5-year federal, provincial, territorial initiative. And we're delivering cost share funding to producers and other associated agribusiness operations. So one of these programs is the LEADS program, for which the Farmland Health Checkup is a prerequisite. So there is an eligible geography to be aware of when we're talking about the Farmland Health Checkup. So it's eligible to complete for farms located in the Lake Erie and Lake St. Clair watersheds. So the checkup can be completed free of charge for farm properties located in this green LEADS eligible area. We do have a list of certified CCAs and PAGs on our website, and I'll have that link at the end of this presentation. Those CCAs and PAGs are those who are certified to deliver the checkup. So the LEADS program directly supports the implementation of best management practices in this Lake Erie and Lake St. Clair watersheds. And completing a checkup is required because the LEADS cost share funding levels are determined directly by risk ratings identified within your completed Farmland Health Checkup. There is an interactive map of this green area on our website as well. If you want to input an address, you can find out exactly where you fall. So LEADS application intakes are held between April 3rd, 2018 and March 31st, 2023. So we're in the middle of the program cycle right now. Upcoming intake dates will be announced as soon as they are confirmed, and the convenient part of the checkup is that it can be completed at any time of year, regardless of whether there's currently a leads intake open or upcoming. So you can complete one anytime. So in addition to being a potential gateway to cost share, the checkup is a great tool to start the conversation on soil health and water quality. It's meant to be a kitchen table type discussion, which can now be done virtually through an online platform, which is especially important given this year's circumstances. I'll touch on that a little more later in the presentation. The checkup works by assessing 3 key fields on your farm to help establish target and baseline soil health. So for you as a farmer, the benefits here is that this is a neutral third-party discussion paired with technical expertise provided by your CCA or PAG, and it's meant to uncover and prioritize actions for your specific farm. It may open the door to cost share opportunities to implement those particular actions, and is tailored specifically to 3 fields on your farm. So the checkup follows the same general pattern as OSCIA's workshops. So the first step being assessing, in this case, assessing 3 fields. Preparing a plan. In this case, this isn't an action plan, as is true in some of our workshops, but you will have a list of BMP recommendations tailored per each field to refer to. And the third step is to implement BMPs, which again, you may choose to look to the LEAD's cost share funding program for potential support, or that document is simply long-term planning. You have the list of BMPs at your fingertips. The checkup was developed by the OMAFRA Soils team with input from CCAs, Ontario Soil and Crop, and farmers themselves. So we encourage interested farmers to complete a checkup to start the soil health conversation. It will become a document that you will have access to over time, and it's meant to be a conversation where your CCA and you can discuss specific concerns or issues on your farm. So what exactly is the checkup assessing? What does it ask about? So there are several challenge areas the checkup assesses. These are wind, water, and tillage erosion, subsurface compaction, organic matter, soil life, phosphorus, pollinator health. So through assessing these areas, the checkup's objectives are to identify areas and increase awareness of where BMP implementation on farms in the Lake Erie and Lake St. Clair watersheds could improve water quality, soil health, and reduce edge of field phosphorus loss to address nutrient reduction targets. So the overriding goal of the checkup is to reduce phosphorus levels in Lake Erie and Lake St. Clair. These may be relatively simple changes that you and the CCA or PAG discuss, or they might be more long-term or potentially expensive projects, which you may wish to potentially seek cost share support for. So the checkup was initially developed as part of the GLASSI program in 2014 to 15. It was a groundbreaking effort at the time to assess soil health across a specific geographic area. Over 1,250 checkups have been completed since the GLASSI program. So that was the Great Lakes Agricultural Stewardship Initiative program. And we've had over 300 LEADS checkups completed since April of 2018. So through surveying the farmers who have completed the checkup, a third of farmers indicated that the checkup changed their awareness of soil issues on their farm. Over half of farmers indicated the checkup changed their awareness of pollinator health on their farm, and 90% of farmers indicated they plan to implement the BMPs discussed during the checkup. You can find in our booth, if you go investigate under the Farmland Health Checkup, you'll find a link to a few YouTube videos which we have, interviewing a few farmers who have completed the checkups as well. These checkups were traditionally completed in person on a physical form, but we recently launched the digital Farmland Health Checkup. So this is just a bit of a preview of what that site looks like. This allows CCAs and PAGs to complete the checkup remotely. So you can use a screen sharing software or speak over the phone if need be. So your CCA or PAG will submit the workbook directly through this website, and you will complete it with them in real time as they work through it with you. They will also let you know beforehand what you need to gather in order to be prepared to work through the checkup. And after it's submitted by your CCA or PAG, you will receive a PDF document of your checkup. So this includes all the questions that you worked through, as well as a list of BMP recommendations for each of the 3 fields. You can access this online at any time. Your CCA or PAG can access it again anytime if you need another copy. And after submission, the checkup is filed directly with us at Soil and Crop. So if you do apply to the LEADS cost share program in the future, your checkup is already with us and on file. If you encounter issues with internet connectivity, there is also a PDF version of the checkup that you can still complete with your CCA or PAG. Remotely or perhaps in person at a later time, and then your CCA or PA can input that information later. So if internet is a problem, there is a workaround for that. So this here is just an example of what those BMP recommendations look like in that PDF document that you received, so your complete Farmland Health Checkup. Here I'm showing 2 fields just in an effort to have the text big enough for you to read, but you will have recommendations listed for 3 fields for each farmland challenge. So in this case, we're looking at subsurface structure, but you will have a list of recommendations for those other areas I mentioned, so things like tillage erosion, soil life, and so on. So these recommendations will be tailored to your operation, and as you can see, they would help work towards the LEADS program objectives as well. So the LEADS targets include reducing nutrient loss, and in particular phosphorus, from agricultural producers within the Lake Erie and Lake St. Clair watersheds, improving the general soil health of farmland, and enhancing pollinator habitat, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and building resilience to climate change. Ontario has committed to supporting water quality improvements in Lake Erie by reducing phosphorus entering Lake Erie's central and western basin by 40% by 2025. And you will have this document that is tailored specifically to your operation that is also helping meet those overarching goals.
Sam, just wanted to give you a 2-minute warning, and there's a question. Is there an opportunity to update the Farmland Health Checkup if conditions or priorities change?
Yes, there is, absolutely. So the checkup, you are eligible to apply to the LEADS program with any checkup you've completed since Galassi, but you can certainly upgrade, especially if you've had a change to maybe the practices on your farm, or even if you want to assess different fields, then yes, you can certainly do that. Okay, so I will run through this a little more quickly here. So the LEADS funding program has the requirement of the Farmland Health Checkup, but there are a few more eligibility requirements to be aware of to apply. And certainly stick around for Margaret's presentation on preparing for a partnership intake to get a better idea of what it looks like to prepare for a cost share intake. For LEADS, you do need a farm business registration number, a premises ID number, and a completed 4th edition environmental farm plan. And the proposed project must be located in the green LEADS eligible area. So BMP supported through LEADS may include crop nutrient plans, cover crops, buffer strips, windbreaks, erosion control structures, as well as equipment modifications for tillage and nutrient application, and so on. Full details are available once an intake is announced, and that information can be found on our website. So I do have a couple videos here. I think I'll just use one today since I'm running a little bit slow today. So here's one video of a producer who has completed a Farmland Health Checkup, and the full videos can be found. There's a link in our booth.
By doing the Farmland Health Checkup, we definitely identified some areas where we could improve. So we've obviously started by implementing our cover crops into our rotation in our growing crops, and we're hoping to reduce runoff, try to reduce some phosphorus runoff, and at the end of the day, we're just trying to keep our soil health good enough that we can continue to grow a good crop and for the future generation.
Visit OSCIA.org for a list of CCAs and professional agrologists who are eligible to conduct the Farmland Health Checkup.
Okay, so if you're interested in getting started and learning more about the checkup, you can visit our Farmland Health Checkup webpage at ontariosoilcrop.org, and there we have a list of certified CCAs and PAGs who have been trained to deliver the checkup. There's a list of over 50 individuals right now who are certified, and you'll see their counties as well, so you can choose somebody who's located close to you. And this will help you start the soil health conversation, be prepared for future leads intakes, and absolutely stick around for our next session here with Margaret. Also on our programs page, you can find a link to our mailing list. So if you'd like to receive email updates when we have new programs, new program intakes or other program updates, we would certainly encourage you to sign up there. So if there are any questions, we do have just a couple minutes here, I think. And thank you very much.
Excellent, Sam, thank you. There is a question. Can anyone outside the Leeds area do the Farmland Health Checkup?
Right, so very good question. Farmland Health Checkups can be completed for operations outside the Leeds eligible area. However, your CCA or PA completing the checkup cannot be compensated by soil and crop. So that would not be at no cost to the producer. So you would need to come to an arrangement or agreement with your CCA or PAG, and they would have to be willing to do that for you. But it is available as a learning opportunity if you would like it. And of course, be aware that you wouldn't be eligible to apply to the LEADS funding program if your property is located outside that area.
Oh, fantastic. We've got like 2 minutes. Do you want to show your other video? Sorry, I was
Sure.
mixed up on the, I missed the timing there.
That is totally okay. Yes, I will put this other video in right now.
Well, I completed the Farmland Health Checkup because it started last fall when I took the environmental farm plan course. Taking that course made me see different areas of the farm that could use some improvement in terms of the soil health and erosion control and pollinator habitat and water quality and those kinds of things. So doing the Farmland Health Checkup gave an overview of the farm, and more specifically in each of those areas, what specific to my farm needed to be improved or could be improved.
Visit OSCIA.org for a list of CCAs and professional agrologists who are eligible to conduct the Farmland Health Checkup.
Perfect. And then there was quickly one more question. What if you have a parcel of land? What about if you have a parcel of a farm in the area and the rest is outside the area?
So if the checkup is assessing at least some part of land located in the LEADS eligible geography, then generally, yes, we say as long as part of your field is overlapping, that's okay. If you have questions about that, certainly I would encourage you to send us an email just so we can fully understand your situation. But yes, in that case, the checkup would still be impacting changes to practices in that LEADS eligible area.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your help here, Sam, and delivering some great information on the Farmland Health Checkup. We'd like to introduce to you now Margaret May, one of Soil and Crops Regional Program Leads, and she is going to talk to us about preparing for an intake. Take it away, Margaret.
Thank you, Robin. Glad to see there's people joining us today. I'm hoping to be able to share my screen here for a couple of slides. But I want you to try and think about what your project is. Do you have a project in mind? What can you do with it? it fit a category? That's kind of one of the biggest issues. We want people to, there we go. We want you to think about your project. What category does it fit, or does it actually fit a project? One of my favorite lines in program delivery is there are absolutely many good projects. They don't all fit the cost share program. So you need to remember the programs do come and go. Projects that are good for your business will always exist. For many of the partnership programs, for all the partnership programs, we apply within intake periods. And as Samantha mentioned, once we have those confirmed dates, we will certainly let you know. But there are things that you can do to get ready for an intake in advance of that. So think about what your project is. What are the requirements for that project? Do you need a workshop that's been completed within the last 5 years, like Environmental Farm Plan or a biosecurity webinar? Those are available. We've just started back at in-person workshops for Environmental Farm Plan. There's been a couple happen. Those biosecurity webinars are offered strategically through the year, and they are all divided up by commodities, so you choose the one that's most appropriate for you. But you'll need to be sure that you've got that workshop certificate in hand and available, because you are going to have to use that when you submit your application. You will also need a premise ID number for the location where that project's going to take place. Those numbers are free, they are easy to get and quite quick to get, as long as everybody in the province isn't looking for a number at the same time. So outside of an intake date is a good time for you to be able to get that number, get your applications in and get it ready. We encourage you very strongly to talk to some of us as field staff about your project. Maybe it's not readily apparent which category is the best one or the best fit for your project, and that is our role to help you pick the best category and for the best chance of a successful outcome. Some of the categories require quotes, formal quotes. Some categories require simply numbers or lists of costs. So it's important that you know the right category so that you are properly prepared and submit the right documents with your application. These are all merit-based assessments, and we want to be sure that you've submitted the best information and the best job you can so that our reviewers can do their best job in reviewing those applications. When the partnership first came out, I said there were 3 rules, and they were read the guide, read the guide, read the guide. Producers tell us they learn different things every time they read the guide. Something will stand out that didn't stand out before. And we have an easy online interactive guide that you can use to check out all those categories, ontarioprogramguides.net. It's available all the time. The information is up to date. The applications are not available there yet. Once the intake opens, those applications are available, but you have the ability to check out all the requirements. On every category, it will list the eligible items, it will list the not eligible items, and it will give you a description of the way that the merit's going to be assessed for that application. So we really encourage you to check that out and talk about it with the field staff. One other thing I think you need to be aware is think about who you're going to hire to do your project, right? We're following some of Canada Revenue Agency's arm's length transaction rules. So if I'm going to apply for a project and I'm going to hire my dad or my brother to do that project, those costs are not going to be eligible. So keep your transactions at arm's length to be sure that they're going to be eligible. There's also a provision for in-kind labor, and that is the person doing the application or completing the application, the owner of the business, that's your contribution, and you can claim for your time or the time that you use your loader, tractor, or some of your equipment for some of those projects. So be sure you have everything you need. Be sure you have all the requirements. Be sure you have those workshop certificates. And then once the applications become available, I would encourage you to download an application and fill it out by hand to be sure that you've got all the information. Then if you choose to submit that by emailing it or mailing it hard copy, you can do that. Or you can apply online through the online portal to be able to submit completely online. And I guess one of my workshop leaders, her favorite line is, call before you dig, right? So be sure you call us, even if you've got that application complete and ready to go. Call us and have a chat about, I have my certificate, I have my application, I'm sure my premise ID number is there, I have all the quotes, I have all the things I need, now I'm good to submit. And be sure that you complete all the lines in that application. So we have some information guides that will certainly help you out. Our website at ontariosoilcrop.org has all kinds of information. That's where you'll find the link to all the field staff across the province. Ontario Program Guides is the interactive guide that will give a list of all the categories available for cost share, whether they're open or closed. And if you visit that guide right now, you'll notice that there are 2 categories that are open, and those are for the bee program, so improving bee health and improving capacity for beekeepers in Ontario. Those 2 categories are open right now. Everything else is closed. And if you need to obtain a premise ID number to be ready for an intake, OntarioPID.com is where you can access that number either online or by giving them a phone call. One update in terms of that PID number, you do need to renew that number every couple of years. You can do that easily on the website. If you just click on the website, it will be request a new number or update the number you have. And all you're doing is confirming that the information that's in their database is correct, that that type of agriculture is still happening within your farm business in Ontario, and it updates that information. So I guess the upshot of preparing for an intake is be aware of what's available for cost share. Be aware that some conservation authorities or municipal programs can also work with the partnership programs or with leads that we deliver, and you can piggyback those programs together. So talking about your project to a variety of people is always a good thing to get a little bit more information. So I don't know if we have any questions appearing, Robin, or if anybody out there has a question for us.
No questions in the chat, but I really encourage people to add your question in there if at all applicable, for sure. This is your opportunity. You've got the expert here ready to answer them for you.
Well, we're available after too. If people want to connect with us through the virtual platform for the show, they can make connections that way. They can connect with us by phone or by email, or on Twitter is a good way to make a connection as well.
Margaret, one question that I've heard from producers a number of times is, can they combine the funding from, say, a conservation authority and the Canadian Agricultural Partnership for a specific
Absolutely.
project?
Those programs, you can stack conservation authority or municipal funding with the partnership programs. The biggest thing that you need to remember with the partnership programs we deliver is you absolutely cannot spend any money until your project is approved. So the process, you can do all the shopping you like, you can arrange everything, but you need to submit an application and receive approval before there are any eligible invoices. So there's no retroactivity here. There may be within conservation authority programs, but there is not here.
Excellent. Dave has, with Glacier Media, has just provided the link to the OSCIA virtual booth for all of those who are listening in. So you please don't hesitate to go there, and you've got a bunch of further experts to help you out with any questions you might have.
Good. Okay, I think you have some OMAFRA specialists that are ready to share their innovations.
Fantastic. Thank you, Margaret. I really appreciate your time helping us out here. And we would like to turn it over to our OMAFRA specialists who have quite a range of topics that they'd like to speak to today. I'm not sure who wants to kick it off, but you guys are welcome to open up your audio and video as applicable, and you've got until 11:30 to share your wealth of knowledge on, it looks like, pretty much specialty crops with us.
Okay, thanks, Robin. Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Todd. I'm the industrial crop specialist with the Ag Development Branch of OMAFRA, based out of the Simcoe Research Station. I work on primarily the non-food crops that have use in the energy sector, the oil sector, pharmaceutical sector, those types of things. And so I'm just going to volunteer and go first so that the other guys can collect their thoughts. I want to talk today because I am the cannabis lead, and I work on, together with Mahendra, on the industrial hemp file. I kind of handle more of the CBD production end of it, and he handles more of the grain and fiber part. I was running a small observation trial this summer where I grew 14 different varieties of hemp. Let's see where my file is. Why isn't it on here? Hang on.
While Jim's bringing up his file, I just wanted to remind all of our listeners that we will be doing this presentation right through until 11:30, and then we'll shut it down. Thank you.
I am having a hard go finding my file. Oh, this is it right here. Great. Okay, can we see that? So one of the questions that that comes out of trying to grow industrial hemp for CBD production is the whole issue around having to grow a female population. Ideally, and this is information that comes out of the cannabis sector, CBD or cannabinoid levels are highest in the female flowers. If they become pollinated, the belief is that those levels go down. And you can imagine if you have gone to all the trouble of putting your female population out, and then there's other hemp growers or cannabis growers or wild hemp in the area, is that going to pollinate your crop? So I was curious to know, if you take the cultivars that we have, is there a difference in when they start to shed pollen, given the potential that you might be able to stagger your female plantings? And so, as I said, only the female populations are desired for cannabinoid production. And one of the challenges in Canada is that only the certified hemp cultivars from the Health Canada list can be grown. And unfortunately, at this point, all of those cultivars were developed either for grain or fiber production, not cannabinoid production. So we're kind of struggling with what we've got and trying to optimize those crops for cannabinoid production. But the question was, does pollen shed begin at the same time for different cultivars? And one thing that you need to know is that there are really two types of industrial hemp that are grown. There's the monoecious types, which contain male and female flowers on the same plant. And then there's the dioecious plants, which have male and female flowers on separate plants. And so the hemp is broken down into those two sort of categories. Now you can also get hermaphroditic plants, and they can occur when the plants are stressed, typically. And hermaphroditic plants are predominantly female plants that, under stress conditions, will develop male flowers that will pollinate some of the female flowers on that plant. So I ran 14 different varieties that I collected from different seed suppliers, and I've broken them down into the monoecious and the dioecious types. And you can see that there in fact is a range of when they start to pollinate. You can see that the days seeding from when I seeded to when the very first male flowers started to shed pollen, it ranged anywhere from 17 days for Piccolo to 32 days for Pheromone. But when you look at, so I had a number of plants growing and I kept the data for each individual plant. So you have an average of when the first pollen began to shed across the groups. And you can see that there is quite a range here, ranging from 22.8 to 44 days. So the Pheromone was one where you had a few plants come out, but then mostly more towards the end, because you can imagine if the average is 44 days, then there's some that are considerably further along than that. One thing I will say with this trial this summer, this observation trial that it ran, is that because of the heat, I found that almost all of the plants became or displayed a few male flowers. And that's strictly stress. Hemp does not like it when it's particularly hot. And so if it's, you know, typically running above 30 for many days in a row, that can stress the plants out, and then they can revert to a hermaphroditic phenotype. So what this shows for this year at least, and the planting was done a bit later than it typically would, because I had issues getting the seed in on time just because of COVID related issues. So next year when I repeat this, I'll hopefully get them in earlier. But flowering started about a week before the males opened, with the female flowers opening up a little bit later. Obviously they wanted, that doesn't make any sense for the female flowers to be open if the males are not shedding pollen. So there is a range, and so the potential exists to sort of look at this and say, I can maybe plant my female population a bit later, depending on what it is. But nonetheless, there's such a spread that it would be very difficult to use that as your only strategy to avoid pollination. So the other experiment that I'm running at this time is to look at whether, in fact, pollination of hemp does reduce the cannabinoid level. And because that would be very interesting to know, because if the reduction is very little, then it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of money and time and effort to produce a female-only population when you could just plant out your hemp, not worry about it getting pollinated, and then just harvest it and extract the cannabinoids. And so that experiment is ongoing. I don't have any results for it this year, but I will next year. And I guess that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Jim. A really interesting and relevant topic for sure. Mahendra, Evan, Dr. T, is there any one of you that would like to take it up now? We've got 20 minutes left in our session for today.
Hi, Robin. It's Evan here. I can probably go next if that's all right with Mahendra and Tejendra. So, hi everyone. My name is Evan Elford. I'm the new crop development specialist with OMAFRA, also based here at Simcoe. I'm actually right beside Jim's office there, where he's sitting. So in my role, I usually cover predominantly horticulture crops, all of our non-traditional horticulture crops or low acreage specialty horticulture crops. So things like non-traditional fruits and vegetable crops, especially mushroom production, as well as hops. But I do the odd time get a chance to work on some of our non-traditional grain crops or pseudo grains like quinoa and grain amaranth and teff. And Jim has also worked on some of those crops as well. But today, what I'll focus on is a few more field crop type of crops that we've been either working on looking at demos or some research trials. I'll just share my screen here. Hopefully this can come now. Now, can everybody, can you see that all right? The perennial grains slide?
Yep.
Yep, okay, great.
Good.
So one thing that we've actually put into place at the outdoor farm show site in Woodstock, the plan was to have this as the demonstration, one of the demonstrations at the non-traditional crop site this year with the OSCIA and OMAFRA, were perennial grains. So perennial grains, there's a real focus right now on actually a number of different traditional annual crops and making them into perennial counterparts for various different reasons. It's at very, very early stages of development across all the different species, but the perennial grains are probably some of the most advanced in terms of research and development and developing commercial lines. Most of our grains, so what you'll see here across what we have at the outdoor farm show site, we have intermediate wheatgrass. The commercial trade name is known as kernza. There's perennial wheat, and there's perennial cereal rye. The perennial cereal rye is actually a variety that's being developed by Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. It's known as ACE-1. So you may start to see a little bit more about it because it is a little bit further advanced, along with the kernza, the intermediate wheatgrass. So we call these perennial grains, but they are very weak perennials at this point. Most of the stands appear to be economical in that they will produce both a grain and a forage crop in the same year, anywhere from 2 to 5 years. After which time, usually you start to see the yields or the vigor of the stand decrease to the point where it would need to be removed and then either a new crop put into rotation or reestablish the stand again. So looking at some of the benefits of these perennial grains, they do require fewer inputs, so a lot less seed over the long term, less cultural management than their annual counterparts. And of course, the fuel, fertilizer, pest management of the crops as well. As I kind of alluded to there, it does have a multi-purpose use. So you can use both the forage and the grain in the same year. Livestock can graze early season prior to the stem elongation on the plants and the grain development. Or late season, it can also be harvested. The vegetative growth can be harvested, again, for forage after the grain harvest. There's only a modest reduction in yields when looking at using this as a multi-purpose crop. So if you're taking forage off or grazing the stand to begin with, there's only a very minimal reduction in the grain yield. So that's also encouraging to see in terms of the research studies that's been done on that so far. When looking at kernza, the intermediate wheatgrass, in terms of yields, research is showing that it's around 30 to 40% of the yield of what you would expect from an annual wheat crop. The perennial wheat varieties are looking anywhere in the 40 to 90% grain yield of annual wheat. And the perennial cereal rye are actually usually higher yields than our annual cereal rye crops. So that's rather encouraging to see those kinds of things. Now the plan is to keep these plots in place for next year. So hopefully if we return to the site next year for the outdoor farm show, you will be able to have a look at these plots in person. So again, a little bit more on perennial grains, just in terms of why there's interest in this. The perennial grain species usually have a larger and deeper root system than the annual counterparts. They have higher levels of disease resistance. They provide an increase in stability in your soil structure, which can help in reducing your nitrogen losses and soil erosion. They obviously there's reduced soil disturbance just because you're not managing the land the same as what you would in an annual system. So of course that helps benefit your organic matter and also the soil biological characteristics. And from any of the research to date, they are finding a higher biodiversity in both flora and fauna within the perennial system compared to the annual system. So just having that increase in biodiversity is also a real benefit to perennial system. Now, I've just listed a few resources there for you. The Land Institute, which is located in Kansas in the United States, they have a lot of really good extension resources on perennial grains, perennial agriculture. They are the ones that have developed Kernza, the intermediate wheatgrass. Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, they're working on the perennial cereal rye, and the University of Manitoba is working on the perennial wheat species. So they are all kind of working together on those different areas, but it is something that if you're looking for more information, those would be great areas for you to look at. How are we for time, Robin?
Well, we only have 13 minutes left for 2 more presentations after you, Evan. So if you could wrap it up, that would be great.
Sure, this is the last slide. So one other crop that Jim and I have been working on the last 3 years, we've been doing field trials with tiger nut. Tiger nut is a cultivated form of yellow nut sedge. And of course, we're probably going to get a lot of people a little worried when we say yellow nut sedge. This is as I said, a cultivated form. It produces an edible tuber that is used as a snack food. It can be crushed to extract tiger nut milk to make products like beverages and ice cream. And you can also extract a high quality oil from the tubers as well. Now, in the 3 years of field trials that we've been working on, along with our U of G counterparts, we have not seen any volunteer plants come back from our trials. And we've been doing trials at the research station here in Simcoe, as well as on-farm trials. So it appears that this particular cultivar, or the cultivated form of this species, does not seem to be cold tolerant or winter hardy. So that is a benefit when we're looking at this in terms of commercial production. And the field trials that we've been working on right now is just trying to better understand the agronomic requirements for growing the crop in Ontario. So we've been looking at nitrogen fertility requirements, irrigation requirements, critical weed-free period, and just soil preparation, bed preparation for the crop. So I'll leave it with that to provide hopefully Mahendra and Tajendra some more time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Mahendra, would you like to take it over?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, all. My name is Mahendra Timmanavagari. I work with Omafra Industrial Bioproduct Specialist. I just briefly give an overview of what specifically what I am working on industrial bioproducts. So I just put a slide just quickly. I don't know if yeah. Because sorry, I didn't have much slides, but I'm just showing a few slides to quickly give an overview of what I'm working on. So specifically the crops which I'm working on. So basically, I just want to specifically give on two crops, the industrial bioeconomy crops, switchgrass and esculentus. I think you might have seen at the farm show. So many of you have visited. These are perennial biomass crops which are potential for bioeconomy. So I just want to give 3 examples from the companies we are currently working on biomass crops. So one is biomaterials. The first is biomaterial applications. What we are looking at, one company, BioOrigins, they are looking at substituting to make bio-based fiber crops for food packaging applications. So for vegetable trays or strawberry punnets. So that is one application we are looking at for using miscanthus switchgrass fibers for biomaterial application. This is a company. So the other application for biomaterials we're looking at for biocarbon, there are two companies in Ontario currently working on. One is Competitive Green Technologies. They are based in Leamington. They developed a technology through University of Guelph to make biocarbon. As you're looking at one of the slide here on the top part, there is a auto part that is made from polypropylene or other fibers, but it's impregnated with the carbon black. That could be substitute, that can be made from miscanthus carbon. So this, because that will help to, the biocarbon will help to reduce the weight of that part, as well as it can be used as a carbon black substitute. So carbon black comes from fossil fuel. And the other example of biocarbon, there's a company called Ag Carbon Canada. So they are based in Simcoe. They're working at looking at multiple applications for biocarbon, for activated carbon, as well as industrial uses for carbon black applications. So this is one area of applications for biomaterials. And the second application, what we are looking at, biochemicals. We have a company in Aylmer, it's called DMT Bioproducts. What we are looking at to use miscanthus to make furfural chemical. So the furfural chemical can be used for multiple platform chemicals or pharmaceutical or biochemical applications. So they use one component of the miscanthus, cellulose component, to produce furfural. So currently they are in pilot stage. So they are planning to ramp up to pilot scale to commercialization in the future. So that is one company in biochemicals. Another one we have in Sarnia, Comet Biorefining, as well as LCY Biosciences. They are also looking at cellulosic feedstocks to produce biosuccinic acid. There are a few companies in Ontario that has been in the stage. So the other application, what we are looking at in bioproducts is biofuels. So there is bioenergy. We have a few projects at the University of Guelph looking at converting miscanthus as well as switchgrass to biocarbon to use for using for substitution as an energy source for coal and steel plants. So Dofasco steel plant in St. Mary's, they have an interest. They have been, because currently they use coal for blast furnace as well as for coke. So they have been looking for alternative biocarbon sources. So besides wood, agricultural biomass has an advantage. We can use it because annually we can harvest, and the carbon content also, it could be similar to wood carbon. So we have currently a few projects going on from CanMet in Ottawa, as well as in University of Guelph, looking at agricultural biomass to use for converting into carbon for use for burning as an energy source of the steel plants. That's one area of bioenergy application we have been involved. So these other area, biofuels, there's an interest also for using as a lignocellulosic materials for low carbon fuels. So although we don't have currently as a commercial plant, there's an opportunity for that, as well as for biogas applications. We've been looking at using these biomass feedstocks for biogas application for renewable natural gas. So this is a quick snapshot of what currently as an industrial bioproducts, specifically what are the crops we are looking at, especially the switchgrass and miscanthus, the high yielding perennial biomass crops for industrial bioproducts. So these are the few companies that currently been in this space in Ontario, been involved or been working on in the different stages. So what we are seeing in that, and we have an association also for this group, for these crops. We have about 2,500 to 3,000 acres in Ontario, and we have an Ontario biomass producer co-op that's been actively looking at markets for these industrial bioproducts. Besides that, we have also been involved in environmental applications for building the soil carbon. We have a few projects ongoing in the University of Guelph, as well as for buffer strips, as well as for erosion control for socks. So there are other applications we are looking at. So, but I just want to quickly focus specifically on industrial bioproducts, where we are seeing applications for substitution for food packaging, or biocarbon applications, or biochemicals applications, where there are a few companies who have been actually looking at these markets, as well as high value potential uses. So if you have anyone has looking for any specific question or company's details, you can send me. I can send all the details of those links and all the companies which we are looking at. So I'm happy to answer any questions. And we have from our colleagues, Jim Todd and Jake DeBrun and few of other colleagues in OMAFRA have been actually looking at industrial products applications for these high yielding perennial biomass crops. Yeah, thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll be hearing lots more about bioproducts over the coming years, for sure. I've heard lots about it with our local Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association chapter doing some trials as well. Anyway, we want to finish it up here. And Tanjendra, would you like to share your presentation with us to wrap up our session this morning?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Robin. My name is Nut Cyperus. I'm your new soil fertility specialist in horticulture and crops. Actually, this is my second month in OMAFRA. I was working as a research associate in the Department of Plant Agriculture here at University of Guelph before. So, but currently I am involved in 6 different projects. There are three projects related to soil fertility management on grapes and peaches. They are based in Niagara region. And there are 2 projects which are focused on cover crop management with pro-till and no-till management system in corn soybean and corn soybean winter wheat rotation system in South Ontario. And there is 1 project which is focused on cover crop management in vegetable production system in Ontario. So as I said, this is my second month with OMAFRA, so I do not have much to share with you guys this time. But if you have any like soil fertility related questions, I would be happy to answer that. For now, I would like to share some slides which forms the basis of my projects related to cover crop management in southwestern Ontario. Oh yeah. So when we are talking about the best management practices, so they can be defined as any agronomic or soil management practices which minimize soil disturbance and erosion, which retain maximum crop residue on the soil surface, and which increase water or nutrient use efficiency of the crop production system. Being specific, so those practices, they help reduce evapotranspiration, they increase microbial diversity, they reduce erosion and surface runoff potential, they increase organic matter content of the soil, they enhance nutrient cycling, they help manage weed, disease, and pest more effectively, and they help promote habitat for wildlife and auxiliaries. So ultimately, they will help improve soil quality through like improving water holding capacity, by improving aggregate stability and structure, by improving organic and inorganic nutrients in soil, by reducing soil compaction, improving water infiltration, regulating soil temperature, enhancing soil organic carbon concentration, and by minimizing greenhouse gas emission from the system. So altogether, they ultimately help build resiliency to different biotic stresses such as weed, pest, and disease, abiotic stresses such as moisture, temperature, wind, and salt, and they also help reduce land degradation, for example, nutrient deficiency, low organic matter, and low productivity. And there are several such practices, I mean best management practices. And those practices involve reduced inversion tillage and soil traffic by adopting conservation tillage. The second one is adoption of more diversified or complex rotation system by integrating new crop or specialty crops into existing crop rotation system. And the third one is by using cover crops, which can be interseeded or cross-seeded into spring cereals or vegetable crops, or they can be also seeded post-harvest after spring cereals or vegetables. And these 3 practices, that means conservation tillage, crop rotation system, and cover cropping, are also considered as trifecta of soil health. That's why we are considering these 3 different practices in our long-term projects within corn soybean and corn soybean winter wheat rotation system in southwestern Ontario. And there are several other practices such as polyculture, irrigation, precision agriculture, organic matter addition to soil, mulching and crop residue management, by using adapted varieties, organic farming, by using different crop probiotics, and by the adoption of agroforestry system. So they all help improve or maintain soil health in our farm. So that's all from my side today. So as I said earlier, if you have any questions related to soil fertility, so I'm here to help you. Please give me a call or send me a quick email, and I would be there. I would be there to answer your call. Thank you so much.
Well, fantastic. Thank you. You covered a lot of material in a short period of time. And the soil health is certainly a key factor that we as workshop leaders with the Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association focus on through a number of our programs and educational opportunities. So thank you for enhancing that, and hopefully we will stay connected over the years to come with their role at OMAFRA. Well, that'll wrap up our session for today. There was just one comment that was in the question or in the chat was about those tiger nuts, and the comment was they taste like a combination between an almond and a coconut. So if anyone's curious, that you can taste that one out. And I think that's pretty much a wrap for today. We'll end out our roundtable. Thank you to all participants in our discussion today. And I encourage everyone to have a quick peek over at the Ontario Soil and Crop Association showcase and enter do the surveys for your chance to enter to win this really awesome rain jacket and a hat. So we'll wrap it out now. And again, thank you so much for attending. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions that are remaining for the show today. And I know there's been some really fantastic opportunities to learn a lot of really valuable information over this program. So thank you, Glacier Media, Farm Media, for being the platform to roll it out to Ontario farmers. And we'll wrap it up. Thanks again.
Thanks so much for your help today, Robin.
No worries.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.